getting ready to take a shower at noon on a Friday with a lantern in the dark because I don't have power, and neither does about 500,000 Iowans. We suffered a natural disaster on Monday that there is absolutely no national news coverage on, so I'm going to talk to you about why you should care what is happening in Iowa right now. Early Monday afternoon, Iowa was hit with a derecho, which is basically a land hurricane in Iowa. My house was one of the lucky ones. We just had a bunch of trees go down in our driveway, but there are so many Iowans that are struggling right now. To put Iowa into perspective, we're number 1 in corn production, number 1 in soybean production, number 1 in pig production, and number 1 in egg production. And so far, almost 50% of the state's crops were destroyed in the storm. This picture was taken a couple days ago from space. The light green shading you see there is flattened fields. You can see it from space, and there is still no national news coverage.
Please stop scrolling, this is important. As if 2020 wasn't bad enough, this week the Midwest was hit by a hurricane, or the equivalent of a hurricane. A phenomenon known as a derecho brought intense winds of over 100 miles per hour and decimated most of the Midwest. This is the equivalent of an F2 hurricane. To put that into perspective, Hurricane Katrina, I believe, was a Category 3 hurricane, and that was all over the news. My home state of Iowa was the worst that was impacted by this, and I have barely seen any news coverage of this. Many people in the state of Iowa make a living off of farming and livestock. People are losing their livestock and cannot find them. People's grain beds are completely destroyed. Before harvest season, people's crops are completely flattened and destroyed. There are trees scattered everywhere, and it's destroying houses. It's destroying their cars. Chainsaws are sold out everywhere so people can pitch in and try to pick up all this debris, which they've been doing for the past 4 days straight. Businesses are being destroyed. Thousands are without power, and those who have gotten access to power to charge their phones are without cell service. It's nearly impossible to get in contact with family. People are dying because they can't plug in their medical equipment.
Hey guys, I live in Iowa and the state got hit hard with a derecho, I think is what it's called, and I didn't even know about one until Monday. And if you're as confused as I am on what a derecho is, basically it's an inland hurricane or something, and they're saying it was like the equivalent of a level 2 hurricane, and it just like completely wiped out our state, half of it, and it's not something we normally get, so it was kind of scary and we weren't prepared, and the sirens went off like 5 minutes before it happened. I was in the car with Tim and Gus trying to get home because we had to pick them up from ABA, and it hit and it tried to blow us over. Trees were going, debris hit our window. Luckily it didn't affect the kid much. He fell asleep and took a nap, and we had to drive 30 miles in it, and it nearly blew us over. We even got attached to a power line that he had to unhook us from so we could go. And then there was trees all over the road, and we were like zigzagging. It was not a fun time. We finally did make it home. I didn't know if we would or not. It wasn't look like we were going to be able to. And we had nowhere to stop. And the storm didn't last much longer once we got home, which was kind of bogus, but it was scary. And half of my state is destroyed. It's not on national news, and Iowa needs help. Crops have been destroyed, and we're like the number 1 in corn, number 1 in soybean, pig, and something else. And half of our crops are destroyed. Farms are destroyed. Buildings are destroyed. My whole town is out of commission. Up the street was apartments. The whole freaking thing blew off and shattered. It's all over the ground. Then there's people in another city that were mostly African, and they need like translation devices, food, water. They're living in their tents in front of this apartment building, living on the rubble that came into their apartments. Children even. People are going homeless. A couple people even died through this storm, and people are dying now because they have no medical supplies. Our freaking electric was out for 4 days. 4 days. Going through 90-degree weather that triggered my seizures. We lost all our food. After we got everything back up and running, We just got more food like yesterday. It was yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. But we barely ate. Luckily, Gus eats off of cereal and bread because that's what I was able to feed him, and that's a couple of the main things he eats. So he was easy to feed. However, the adults were not. We had some canned foods. The person that lives with us made Raven noodles work. I'm still trying to figure that one out. And bread. So the adults hardly ate at all. It did damage to our car. It did damage to my house. It took some of my roof with it even. We had to patch a hole up. It tried to take off the whole back porch, so now the wall is dislocated from the floor. And we are still cleaning up from the aftermath, from all the trees and debris that was in our yard, and we got hit pretty hard, so I'm surprised there wasn't more damage done to the house. And our lady that lived in her house for 12 years, her house is destroyed by trees. We weren't prepared for a hurricane because we don't get hurricanes here. And half of the state is destroyed and nobody's talking about it. Half of the Iowans still don't even have electricity. And some had to wait, like us, 4 or 5 days. And people's losing their food, people can't eat. We're struggling over here and nobody is talking about it. And it's been a week since it hit Monday. It is now Sunday. And Iowans are coming together to try to pick us up from this, but it may be a while before Iowa even comes back from this. And unless you're California, New York, or Florida or Texas, you don't hear about the devastations in other cities or states. So I'm going to leave a link in the description of how you can help Iowa, because we are broken. And it may be a while before we come from this. I have the home insurance person coming out to see the damage that happened on my house, to try to get some of the repairs done. I was more worried about affecting Gus, but it didn't affect him much. Fell asleep in the car, and then when we got home, it wasn't here much longer, which we nearly died. But he was very mad over the TV. So trying to keep him calm through it while I'm having extra loads of seizures from the heat was not a fun time. Luckily, they built a like a homemade pool back there, so they went swimming in it. But of course I couldn't, because right when it hit I started my period. Ain't that a bitch? And then in other news, at the ABA clinic that Gus goes to, a worker tested positive for COVID. Yay! Luckily, they didn't interact with Gus, but then that worker plus the kids that they did interact with is out for 14 days. So there may be days where he can't even go to ABA because he doesn't have a worker. So it's been very stressful over here. I haven't had much energy to record anything, but I feel like this needs to be said because there's no news about Iowa or how millions of Iowans are struggling at this current moment. The only one that has kind of pushed it out and tried to fight for us was Ashton Kutcher, because he's actually originally from Iowa. Thank you, Ashton. And his parents live here. So it's like, so share this video, spread the word, and I'm going to show you pictures of all the damage it caused.